Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. So again, welcome to our subject. And for today, we are going to talk about biological assets. So this is your instructor, Noel Bergonia. So just sit back, relax, okay? Just take down notes and okay, if you have questions, please let me know sa ating chat box. Okay? So let's start now the discussion of biological assets. So this topic is actually under the scope of IAS number 41, which is entitled Agriculture. And let's first try to define the objective as well as the scope of IAS number 41 before we proceed directly to our biological assets. Okay, so the objective of this standard is actually to prescribe accounting treatment and disclosures that are related to any agricultural activity. Okay, so this standard is also being applied to account for the following agricultural activities that we will be discussing later, such as biological asset, of course, except the bearer plants, which will be part of the property, plant, and equipment under IAS number 16. Okay, we have also the agricultural produce at the point of harvest and government grants. Okay, so BAG, no? Okay, biological assets, agricultural produce, and the government grants. Okay, so yan po yung content ng ating IS number 41. Okay, and as you can see, it tackles about the biological assets, and later we will be also discussing about agricultural produce and government grants, as we move along with our discussion. Okay, so let's try to define biological assets and some other things that we need to know before we proceed with the discussion proper. So first, ano nga ba itong biological assets na to? So kanina in our introductory slide, as you have seen, may plants, may bunga, actually those are mango trees, and mango fruits. So but let's define biological assets, na-connect lang So the biological assets in accordance with IAS number 41 are living plants and animals. Okay, so lahat po ng nabubuhay na plants and animals. And also, in accordance with paragraph number 5, letter C, the biological assets are also considered as the produce, growing on bearer plants. Okay, so mamaya we will be defining ano ba yung bearer plants, and I will show you an example or various examples as well of biological assets. For the meantime, these are living plants and animals. So ano po ba yung bearer plant? Kasi kanina in the scope natin and even here in the definition, it mentioned about bearer plants. Pero bearer plants will not be part of the accounting here in IAS number 41, but rather in IAS number 16. Okay, so bearer plants is a living plant, of course, that okay is used in the production or supply of agricultural produce. So it is considered as a plant na nagpo-produce ng ating agricultural produce. Later we will be defining that agricultural produce. Then it is expected to bear that produce for more than one period. So ibig sabihin it's not just a year or one period lang po siya mamumunga. Okay, but rather it will take more than one period para mamunga siya, or hindi siya yung kagaya ng mais, 'di ba? Pag yung mais tumubo, that's a plant, 'di ba? Tapos after niyang mamunga, then kumbaga puputulin na yung mais, so it does not produce for more than one period, unlike with the mango tree na kung saan it's growing na matagal, tapos pag namunga, of course, hangga't hindi mo pinuputol, namumunga pa rin naman siya. Okay, and lastly better plants has a remote likelihood to be sold as agricultural produce except for those incidental scrap sales. So hindi mo naman bibenta yung puno ng mangga which is used in a plantation for bearing the mango fruit, kasi merong mga merong mga plants that are kumbaga considered to be sold as agricultural produce, such as yung let's say forest plantation, na kaya sila nagpapa tubo ng puno, kasi it's not for bearing fruits but rather for selling as logs, 'di ba? So that's unlikely a bearer plant. Okay, so that's a bearer plant, living plant that are used in the production, which is actually fit to the definition of the property, plant, and equipment in IAS number 16. Okay, it bears fruit, no, or it bears the produce for more than one period, and then it has a remote likelihood of being sold as an agricultural produce. Okay, again, this is plant ha. Sir, paano kung better animal? Is there such thing as better animal? Yes, may better animal, but technically it's part of our biological assets, no? Kasi again, ang exception lang naman po dito was the better plant. Okay? Then lastly, no, in our definition is yung kanina pa nababanggit na agricultural produce, okay, which is referring to the harvested produce of the entity's biological assets. Okay, so harvested na po yung particular produce na yon, no, of the entity's biological assets. Okay, so ayan, no, importanteng tandaan natin yan. Now, let me show you, no, the picture that I have shown kanina in the introductory slides. Okay, so let's try to decipher which yung ating biological assets, better plant, and even agricultural produce. Okay, so this mango tree, okay, supposed to be this is a mango plantation, no? So the mango tree, okay, sabi natin kanina, is considered as a better plant. Why? Because it could be able to be used in production of our agricultural produce, which is in this case the mango. Okay, and also it is expected to produce, no, for more than one period lang. And also hindi naman po natin siya um, intended to be sold as a produce. Yung puno ng mangga mismo, hindi natin ibibenta, di ba? Okay, so that's a better plant. Now, as you can see, no, there are so many mango fruits attached to the better plant. And kanina, we talk about that as um, produce, no? So this produce, okay, or unharvested fruits yet, okay, attached to our better plant, which is the mango tree, is considered still as biological assets, no? Kasi nandun pa siya. Now, pag na-harvest na po siya, yung hawak-hawak ng lalaki, no? So as you can see, this will now be considered as an agricultural produce being harvested, no? And they will be part now of our inventories kasi ibibenta na po natin yan. Now, pag inventory na po siya after harvest, ibig sabihin, it will not be accounted for anymore under IAS number 41, 'di ba? So, ang inventories po natin na discuss natin previously under IAS number 2. Okay? So, IAS number 2 'yan. Okay, samantalang yung better plant, IAS number 16, okay, which is property, plant, and equipment. Okay, and nakikita ninyo, no, may cow in the background. Okay, so we can consider that cow as a biological asset as well. Okay, so kasi living plants and animals yung ating biological assets. Okay, so are we clear on that, guys? All right. So yung lupang kinakatungtungan niyan ha, that's considered then as a property, plant, and equipment. Okay? So madami tayong nakita ditong assets ngayon, no, in our um, picture. Okay? So again, if you have questions po, please let me know. Okay? So yan po yung example natin for agricultural produce, no, the biological assets and the better plants. Okay? So now, in accordance with IAS number 16 as well, IAS number 41, no, for the agriculture. Okay, meron po mga binabanggit that these are not considered as better plant. Kasi kanina, 'di ba? Better plant siya pag it could be able to be used in production of the agricultural produce. Okay, for more than one period siya likely na magpo-produce, and even it's not intended to be sold, no? So, what are those not considered as better plants? Okay, one of which would be plants that are cultivated, no, to be harvested as agricultural produce. Okay, so nabanggit ko to kanina, example is yung pinapatubo natin na puno, no, and we will be selling it as lumber. So hindi siya kinonsider as better plant kasi it violated yung isa doon sa 3 bullets kanina, 'di ba? Kasi we should not have the intention to sell that as agricultural produce para maging better plant. Dahil nga po it was being cultivated or pinalaki siya, okay, for harvesting as agricultural produce, then it's not a better plant anymore. Okay? Next would be plants cultivated to produce agricultural produce. Okay, when there is more than likelihood that the entity will also harvest and sell that plant as an agricultural produce, no, or other than incidental scrap. So example would be trees that are cultivated both their fruit and their lumber. So meron din pong mga puno, no, na being pinapalaki, no, or tinatanim, pinapalaki, tapos namumunga ng fruits, Okay, and then they will sell the particular puno, no, yung log niya or lumber. So sabi po dito, okay, since the intention is more than likely na um, it will be used, no, to harvest the plant as an agricultural produce, then ayun, we will be considering it as not a better plant. Okay, and then finally, no, annual crops, okay, such as maize and wheat, and also let's say for example yung mga mais, 'di ba? Palay, okay, they cannot be considered as better plant since they have just produced in just one period. Okay, so ayan po yung mga not better plant natin. Okay, so let's give more examples of biological assets, the agricultural produced, and some products after harvest natin. Okay, so one of which would be yung sheep. Okay, so tupa, no? So yung tupa natin will produce, sir, animal yan, ano yung produce na? Actually, yung tupa, aside from the meat, no, it produces yung wool, no? Yung kanilang mga wool. Ano tawag dyan? Feather feather tuloy, no, sa chicken. Okay, ayan, no, yung kanilang balat, no, yung fur dun sa kanilang balat, no, that's an agricultural produce, and it could be used, no, to produce the carpet. Okay, so actually yung harvested produce natin can be already considered as an inventory. Okay, and then also the products after harvesting, no, yung biological assets lang natin simply would be the sheep. Okay, next would be the pigs, no? Okay, so pigs are considered as biological assets. Okay, so technically, ano pinoproduce na the carcass, no? So the meat itself. Then after processing, it could be a ham or 'di ba, mga cooked na or ready to cook na mga foods. Okay, so ayan po, biological asset would be the pig. So even though the pigs, let's say for example, ay nanganganak po ng so many times, they could be considered as better animals, 'di ba? Pero na-mention ko kanina that there is no such thing as better animals na i-considered just like the better plants. So biological assets pa rin po sila. Okay? And then last in my list of examples, no, for na may pictures would be ayan, no? Grapevine. Okay? So I think here in the Philippines bihira din naman yung ating grapevine, no? Pero anyways, they are considered as biological assets. Okay? Then of course their agricultural produce would be the picked grapes. Okay, and the processed product after you pick those grapes would be, example is wine. Okay, so ayan po, no, these are just some examples, and actually we derive these examples based on paragraph number 4 of IAS number 41. So dito po medyo may mga sinabing limited number of items lang po, no, that are considered as biological assets, agricultural produce, and products that are resulting after harvest. Okay, so um eto, yung cattle kanina, yung pigs, tobacco plants, no? Yung pig leaves niya are agricultural produce, and then yung cured tobacco that are used for cigarettes, no, are considered as inventories already. Tapos makikita nyo may fruit trees po dito, no, pickled fruits at saka processed fruit, no. Sir, bakit po ganon? Kasi most likely that particular fruit tree would not fall under the definition nung ating kanina na better plant. Okay, kaya considered natin siya as biological asset. Okay? So, any questions or clarifications, please let me know. Okay, by the way, may napansin kayo dito, no? Some plants, for example, tree, bushes, grapevines, oil palms, and rubbers daw usually met the definition of better plants within the scope. However, the produce growing in the better plants, okay, the tea leaves, the grapes, the oils are under the scope of IS number 41. So some lang naman, okay? So any questions or clarifications, please let me know, okay? So let's continue, no? So these plants and even animals needs to undergo what we so called agricultural activities. Okay? So when we talk about agricultural activity, this refers to the management, no? Okay, of the biological transformation. Okay, and harvesting ng ating biological assets, no, as a result of converting the agricultural produce and into an additional biological asset. So in technical term, no, when we talk about agricultural activity, so ito po ay nagre-refer doon sa let's say for example sa mga plants, no, pagbubungkal, pagka-cultivate, okay, so pag-fertilize, okay, um, ano pa, pagwa-water ng plants, okay, so for in terms of animals naman, raising those livestock, okay, and even let's say giving vaccinations, okay, for them to transform, no, to grow, okay, so yan po yung management by the entity with regards to the biological transformation, okay. And then as you can see here, no, there are various examples such as grazing, the forestry for those plants na pinapalaki natin, annual and perennial cropping. So ito po yung para sa mga annual crops natin. And then cultivation, okay, floriculture is more on the flowers, diba? And aquaculture is more on the study of um, water animals, of course, no, including fish farming. Now, harvesting from unmanaged source, no, so yung pag-harvest daw ng um, anything from unmanaged sources such as yung ocean fishing at saka deforestation is not considered as an agricultural activity. So tandaan niyo po ito, ha. Sir, bakit po hindi siya agricultural activity? Kasi let's say for example, ocean fishing. Inalagaan mo ba yung mga isda na kinukuha mo doon? 'Di ba hindi? Okay? So most likely, ano 'yon, tawag dito, hindi po nag-undergo ng agricultural activity 'yon. Okay? So kasi ang agricultural activity, you manage the transformation hanggang sa lumaki, okay, hanggang sa ma-harvest mo yung um, particular na produce na 'yon. Okay? And also deforestation. So itong deforestation dito means it's a usual alam niyo naman 'di ba yung deforestation, cutting of trees. Okay, technically when we talk about deforestation, ito yung mga hindi mo tinanim, no? You're just cutting the trees, okay? Then you have already the produce. So that's not an agricultural activity kasi iba rin po siya doon sa tinanim mo and then saka mo hinarvest or deforest. Okay? So ayan, no? So harvesting from unmanaged source are not an agricultural activity. Okay? So now, referring still to agricultural activity, there are certain common features, no, na nag-exist based on IAS number 41. And they are, one, no, there is a capability to change. So when we talk about this, no, that there is a capability to change, these living plants and animals are being capable, no, of biological transformation. Okay, so kaya po nila na lumaki, no, mag-degenerate or procreate. So mamaya we will be discussing further yung biological transformation. Okay, so lumalaki sila, tumatanda sila, no, o kaya they can produce offspring. So that's the capability of this living plants and animals. Moreover, we have the management of change. So in the agricultural activity, no, the management will facilitate, okay, yung biological transformation via how do they manage? Halimbawa, if the company is a plantation of um, kumbaga, or sorry, um, it's a farm, no, for pigs, for example. So they're going to feed those pigs, no, bibigyan ng nutrients by pag-injection, okay? Even yung sa chicken, 'di ba? Sa mga poultry farms natin, okay? So they are giving water there, giving appropriate lighting and ventilation. So that's management of change. We manage, no, and facilitate the biological transformation of these living plants and animals, okay? And finally, no, the last common feature in accordance with IAS number 41 is measurement of change. So when we talk about it, no, it refers to the changes in the quality as well as the quantity, okay, which is brought about by the biological transformation. So the companies are monitoring, of course, lumalaki na ba yung living plants and animals natin, okay? So are they growing, no, kumbaga tumatanda na ba sila, are they producing their agricultural produce, okay? So ayan po, no, we measure the change brought by the biological transformation and we monitor it, okay? So these are the common features po natin, okay? So now, no, in accordance also with IS number 41, it gives there some um items, no, that are considered as outcomes of biological transformation. Okay, so ano ba yung mga outcomes ng biological transformation na minamanage natin based sa kanina, no? And ano ba yung capability, no? Ito yung nagiging outcome. Of course, that particular plant or animal, okay, will grow. Okay, lalaki sila. Or it would degenerate, no? So, matatanda, no? Just like yung mga, let's say for example, mga paanaking baboy or even pati yung mga cows natin, no? They will be degenerating, and also they can procreate. So they can create another animal or another plant. Okay, and then also when we talk about outcomes, it also um, connotes production of agricultural produce. Okay, so we we manage to give them nutrients, we manage to give them fertilizers because we want them to produce, no, which we would be able to use, no, for selling or even for future ano rin, di ba? Kapag nanganak yung, let's say for example cow, we can use that again, okay, para palakihin, or even you can sell it naman po. Okay, so those are the outcomes of the biological transformation. Okay? So again, if you have questions po, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. All right? So right now, no, we will be discussing already the accounting for this biological assets. Okay? So in accordance with IAS number 1, we will recognize or record the biological assets, no, in our accounting record when and only when, number 1, yung entity po natin has the control, okay, over that asset as a result of past events. So again, in your conceptual framework, there is control, no, discussed there. It would be a control for that particular asset, no, as a result of past events. And then there should be a probability that future economic benefits, no, which are associated in this asset will flow to the entity. So probable dapat, not possible. And also the fair value or the cost of the asset can be measured reliably. So these are the three important criteria, no, for recognition of the biological asset. The entity should have a control over it. It should be probable that there is a future economic benefits, and the costs or the fair value can be measurable. Okay? Now, after we have met the recognition criteria of the biological assets, then the next question is by how much are we going to record them? Okay, so let's talk about the initial recognition of this biological assets. Okay, so in accordance with IAS number 41, the biological assets should be measured, no, initially at fair value less cost to sell. Okay, so initial recognition yan, fair value less cost to sell. So when we talk about this fair value less cost to sell, okay, so it refers to, of course, yung ating active market, no, kung ano po yung fair value doon, and then the cost to sell, which is incremental cost, no, directly attributable in disposal of it. So later, in the subsequent recognition, doon ko nilagay yung definition more of the fair value less cost to sell, kasi actually the initial measurement and the subsequent measurement, okay, are the same, na fair value less cost to sell. Okay, so just in case po that there is no market prices available, so meaning there is no available fair value, okay, measurement, ang sabi po, also, no, kung walang available fair value o kaya naman yung alternative fair value measurements natin are somehow unreliable. So again, initially ang first priority, fair value less cost to sell, no? Just in case na walang available market or yung alternative is unreliable, then what you're going to use would be the cost less accumulated depreciation and less any impairment losses. Okay? So sir, possible pala yun? Oo, no? If the quotation in the market is not available or unreliable po yung fair value natin. Okay, sir, how to determine na walang available? Of course, it would be based on the observation, no, of the market, no, and also the fair value. Okay, so cost less accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment. However, no, once na naging reliable na yung fair value measurement natin, ang sabi po no, the entity shall already measure it at fair value less cost to sell. Okay? So yun po ha, pag available na, okay, kanina hindi pa available kaya costless accumulated depreciation. Okay, pag available na, reliable na siya, okay, then ayun, pwede na tayong bumalik ulit sa fair value less cost to sell since that should be the ultimate value for these biological assets. Okay? So, agricultural produce harvested from the entity's biological asset shall be measured at its fair value less cost to sell at the point of harvest. So remember guys, nung nag-discuss po tayo ng inventories, one of the sources of the inventory natin in the discussion are harvested products. 'Di ba? Yung harvested agricultural produce at sinabi natin doon na yung cost ng inventory would be the fair value less cost to sell nung agricultural produce na yon at the point of harvest. So ito po yun, no, that any harvested agricultural produce, okay, should be recorded of course at cost kasi yun yung sa inventory. Pero yung cost niya dahil ano yan, 'di ba? Pag namunga naman yung mangga, hindi mo naman siya inacquire, 'di ba? Hindi mo siya binili, but rather you have what? Harvested it from your bearer plant. So again, yung magiging cost nun kung inventory ang pag-uusapan should be the fair value less cost to sell at that point of harvest. Okay, so connected, no? Para napapansin nyo, inventory, yung una natin diniscuss, then nag-biological assets tayo, no? Connected yung agricultural produce dun sa inventory. And then our succeeding discussion would be property, plant, and equipment, di ba? Na connected din naman dito kasi we have the better plant. Okay? So ayan, no? That's the initial measurement, fair value less cost to sell. Now, after the initial recognition, our biological assets, as mentioned also kanina, no, should be recorded in our financial position, okay, at the end of the accounting period, still at fair value less cost to sell. Now, ito pong fair value na to, okay, is referring to the price in the active market. Okay, so yun po yung basis natin as to the fair value natin, the price in the active market. Now, ano ba tong active market na to? In accordance with IFRS number 13, which is entitled Fair Value Measurement, no, Appendix A, it defines there na itong active market na to is referring to a market, no? Of course, market. That transactions of assets or liabilities takes place. Okay? With sufficient frequency and volume to provide pricing information on an ongoing basis. So doon pala nagaganap yung transaction about the assets or even pati liabilities, no? So that's the active market. Now, yun yung fair value, no? The price in the active market is the best assets fair value. Now, let's talk about the cost to sell. The cost to sell, okay, refers to the incremental cost, no, directly attributed to the disposal of an asset. Kaya nga siya to sell, 'di ba? Disposal of an asset. But it excludes yung finance cost, yung mga interest, no, and also income taxes. So hindi po kasama diyan ha yung interest at saka yung income taxes natin. But take note guys, this cost to sell, the cost in disposing this asset includes only the cost, no, that are incurred without moving them to the market. Okay, so supposed to be dapat kung ano yung point in time niya na value niya, okay, ng disposal cost, no, without moving it to the market, no, yun po yung cost to sell po natin. Kaya po yung ginagastos natin for transporting our product from the place kung saan po natin siya hina-harvest, no, going to the market is not considered as cost to sell. So ito po, no, transportation costs of getting the assets to the market is not part of the cost to sell. Okay, so ano ba yung mga example ng cost to sell natin? Mga levied na mga levied na mga taxes, no? Okay, levied taxes. Sir, hindi ba parehas yun sa income taxes? Hindi, kasi yung levied taxes natin by taxing authority, let's say for example, yung tax na binabayaran for selling it, kasi yung income tax po, it's more on yung corporate income tax or even the personal income tax na nare-refer doon. Okay, so also pwede rin po yung tinatawag po natin na mga transfer taxes, no, kasi pwede i-transfer yung name ng one I mean sa animals, 'di ba, pag ano pwedeng binebenta yon, you transfer one you transfer one asset to another and you need to pay taxes, but that is not an income tax. Okay, so you will discuss further about that taxes no pag sa discussion niyo na ng income taxes. Okay, so ayun po, ang point lang natin no sa cost to sell, hindi po kasama yung costs of getting it to the market. Okay, so also take note guys that since the valuation of our biological asset is fair value less cost to sell, so any labor cost na binayad natin dun sa mga farmers no na nagko-cultivate nung ating lupa, babantay no nung ating mga crops or even ating mga animals, okay? Also the cost of fertilizers at saka yung feeds na pinapakain natin, okay, shall be recorded now as expense kasi hindi siya component ng fair value less cost to sell. Okay? So ayun ha, any feeds, fertilizers, no, yung ginagastos para sa patubig, okay? Ano pa, yung mga farmers na nagbabantay doon, okay? So all of them will be charged against our expenses, okay, once we have incurred it. Okay? So are we clear on that? All right. So now, let's talk about gains or losses no related to the biological asset measurement. Okay, so again, we have recorded them initially and subsequently, okay, at fair value less cost to sell. So gain or loss in the measurement natin of biological assets no are due to number one, if we purchase that biological assets no um, and the purchase price is different from our fair value less cost to sell. Okay, so as you can see here no, yung purchase price no, yung amount na binili natin plus any transaction cost no in buying that asset, okay, if greater than the fair value less cost to sell natin, sir, possible pala yun na mas mataas ang babayaran natin kaysa dun sa fair value less cost to sell? Yes, no, pwede yun. Kasi baka gustong-gusto talaga natin bilhin. Then, again, that would be a loss in the initial recognition. So, magkakaroon tayo ng loss kasi we will just be recording the biological asset as fair value less cost to sell. Pero, ang binayaran natin ay mas mataas kesa doon sa fair value less cost to sell na yon. Ngayon, also, on the other hand, okay, the purchase price plus transaction cost may be less than the fair value less cost to sell. So in that case, no, meron na po tayo agad na gain on initial recognition. So kung napansin niyo for inventory discussion natin, walang ganito kasi we will be recording it at cost kung magkano natin siya binili or inacquire plus transaction cost. Yun lang yung recording. Dito kasi, no, the purchase price plus transaction cost will be the amount to be paid, but the recording under initial recognition is the fair value less cost to sell. So ayun ha, mag-a-arise ng loss kapag mas mataas ang purchase price kesa fair value less cost to sell. Kung mas mababa ang purchase price kesa sa fair value less cost to sell, then we will have a gain. Okay? Moreover, gains or losses related to biological asset may arise either via the physical change, no? Yung paglaki, kasi yung paglaki ng animals or even plants no can be attributed to an increase in fair value less cost to sell, so that will be considered as either a gain or loss, and even some price changes. Okay, so mamaya in our journal entries no, we will be talking about the valuation for physical change and price change no sa entries natin. Then, moreover, no, gains or losses could arise from newborn animals. So, di ba kasi pag nanganak yung, let's say for example, yung baka, no? Okay, so it will be a calf already. So, wala namang halaga na binili mo or you didn't buy that particular baby cow, no? Kaya that newborn as animal would be considered as a biological assets na rin, and thus since wala tayong ginastos, it will become a gain for us. Okay, so mamaya we will be giving example on that pag nanganak na ano yung entry. Then also initial recognition of any agricultural produce, okay, kasi from 'di ba, from a tree na namunga, okay, parang ganoon din sa newborn animal. Okay, so namunga tapos nagkaroon ng value yung iyong agriculture produce, then that will also considered be as a gain. And also there would be losses as well no related to result of harvesting. Okay, so yan po yung mga causes ng ating gains or loss. Okay, and the next part of our discussion will already be talking about some examples of what we have discussed. Okay, so again, if you have questions po, please let me know. Huwag niyan kakalimutan that the valuation of our biological assets, whether initial or subsequent, basta active market and the quotation and the fair value are reliable, should be recorded at fair value less cost to sell. Okay? So let's start with our first example. Okay? So we are asked to prepare the journal entries no related to this no and let's read the data. So on January 1, 2020, Berg's farm has a herd of 20 two-year-old cattle. Okay? Sir, imo-monitor pa talaga natin? Oo, kasi 'di ba kanina in our discussion for the tinatawag natin na agricultural activity, we should also measure the change. So we try to monitor it, 'di ba? So 2-year-old yung cattle, okay? So meron po tayo noon in January 1, 2020. Take note ha, 20 yung meron po tayo. Then 5 cattle na at age of 2.5 years old no were purchased on June 30. So bumili po tayo ng cattle. No? Mamaya i-entryhan po natin yung pagbili na yan. Then, on the same date, no, which is on June 30, 4 calf were born. So, ayan, meron po tayong, anong tawag natin dyan? Meron po tayong newborn animal. Di ba? 4 na calf. Okay, mamaya titignan din natin yung entry dyan. Then, 10 cattle were sold at December 31, 2020, aged 3-year-old at its fair value. Now, per unit fair value less cost to sell were as follows. So we need this information now for our recording. Okay. So let's start first. No, ano yung starting point natin in January 1, 2020? No? So the starting point in January 1, 2020 are the cattle no, na 20 po, okay, which has a fair value less cost to sell na 30,000. So that's why if I asked you how much is the biological assets on January 1, 2020, of course your answer would be 600,000. So yung 30,000 na per cattle times 20 na 2-year-old cattle. Ayan, nakikita nyo, di ba? 2 years old no in January 1 is valuing at 30,000. Okay, yun yung starting biological assets po natin. Now, next in the transaction will be yung pagbili nung 5 cattle. On June 30, 2020, bumili po tayo ng 5 cattle na na may taong 2.5. Okay, so if you're going to check on June 30, okay, we have 2.5 years no has a value of 40,000. Okay, so we purchase it at 40,000 kaya we will be recording it as debit biological assets 200,000 and we credit cash 200,000. So that's um, equal amount coming from the 40,000 na fair value less cost to sell okay, on June 30 times the 5 cattle na binili po natin. Okay, is that clear? All right. Now, on the same date, sabi kanina, 4 calf were born. Remember, in the theoretical discussion kanina, newborn animals are considered as gain, di ba? Gain po siya kasi nanganak yung cattle pero wala naman po tayong ginastos on that particular hindi natin inacquire, di ba? So instead of putting cash, the entry for June 30 related to the 4 calf that were born, okay, would be debit biological assets 64,000 and credit gain from fair value less cost to sell due to physical change. Sir, bakit physical change? Considered as physical change yung newborn kasi from wala no, nagkaroon tayo ng 4 calf. Okay? Sir, bakit po 64,000? So it came from 16,000. Sir, saan po nanggaling yung 16,000? Kung makikita niyo yung table, it has a value for the newborn no, na 16,000 in June 30. So yun po yung ating fair value less cost to sell nun. And then multiplied it with 4, thus we have a gain na 64,000. So yan po yung application kanina nung nasa theory na gain on the newborn. Okay? So are we clear on that? All right, so that's in June 30. Then next on the line would be bago nating entryhan yung binenta no, let's check no for the increase or decreases in the prices. Okay, pero malamang as you can see no, increasing yung mga prices sa table po natin. So kanina in our discussion, Okay, gains or losses arises from the change, no, in the fair value brought by physical change and also price change. Okay, lumaki, nagbago yung value, okay, and then price changes, okay, on the same age, no, different prices. Okay, so we will now be talking about the gains or loss na binanggit kanina sa theory. Okay, so unahin po natin yung about sa price change. Okay, so nagkakaroon ng price change, okay, if we have the same age, okay, but referring it to different dates. Okay, so halimbawa, example nitong 2 years natin, okay, in the table. As you can see here, yung 2 years old natin, in January 1, 30,000 lang ang value niya. Pero yung equivalent ng 2-year-old na yon, no, in December 31 is already 33. So ano nangyari? Tumaas, bumaba. 'Di ba tumaas? Okay. Same age, okay, different date. So we are going to look into that, and that is known as the price change natin. Tignan mo rin yung 2.5 for example. Yung 2.5 years, no, on June 30 yung binili natin, with the same age on December 31, it now becomes 44,000. Okay? And the newborn, 16,000 lang siya. Then on December 31, newborn pa rin is 17,000. So we will account for the price change, no, in accordance with what we have discussed in the theory. Okay? So tandaan nyo to ha, ito yung clue ninyo. Same age, different date. And that is referring to our price change. Okay? So the entry for that, as you can see naman, lahat halos nag-increase, 'di ba? Tumaas. So malamang we will have a gain, no? So the entry for that is to debit the biological assets, no, 84,000, and credit the gain from fair value less cost to sell due to price change na 84,000. So saan po nang galing 'yon? Unahin po natin yung newborn animals, 'di ba? May apat tayo na newborn, okay? On June 30, same age siya, newborn, 16,000 tayo. And then tumaas po siya to 17,000 on December 30. So magkano yung change? 1,000, 'di ba, per calf. So times 4 'yon, that would be a price change na 4,000 pesos. Okay? Next would be the 2-year-old animal. So yung 2-year-old kanina in January 1, we have 30,000. Okay, so yun po yung 30,000. And then, no December 31, it changes na, naging 33,000. So we have an increase of 3,000. Okay, so times the 20. Kasi 20 po, di ba, yung initial na 2-year-old calf natin or cattle, no? So 20 times 3,000. So that's a price change for the 2-year-old animal na 60,000. Okay? And finally, we have the 2.5-year-old animal na binili natin on June 30, which is amounting to 40,000. Then it becomes 44,000 na po in December 31. So there is an increase of magkano mga bata? 4,000. Very good, no? Multiply it with the 5 na binili natin na 2.5-year-old animals. So that's equivalent to a price change of 20,000. So by adding it, we have a total price change of 84,000. All right? So are we clear on this, guys? Any questions or clarifications? Alright, so very good. So yan po yung price change. Sir, possible din po ba na bumaba po yung presyo? Yes, no, kapag bumaba yung presyo, then that means we will have a loss. Okay? Are we clear on that? Okay, so kung baliktad yung nangyari, mas mataas siya nung una, and then with the same age na different date, biglang bumaba, then that would be meaning na there would be a loss. Okay, so nag-increase yung biological asset natin because of the changes in the price, and we have recognized the gain related to price change. But technically, it will just simply go to the profit or loss. Itong gain po na to. Okay, pupunta po yan sa P&L. Next, no, in the theory kanina, we have stated that there is also physical change. Aside from dun sa newborn ha, kasi kanina dun sa previous slide nitong problem na to, inentryhan na po natin yung newborn. No? Ngayon po, okay, yung talagang physical change na po na nangyari, okay, in all of the animals. So when we talk about the physical change, no, kung kanina sa price change, same age, okay, different date. Sa physical change naman po, different age, same date. Okay? So sir, bakit po different age? Kasi pag sinabi nating physical, tumatanda sila, di ba? Okay? kagaya natin no, ng mga tao, tumatanda rin sila, and of course, that change in their age may cause also a change in the fair value less cost to sell. Okay? So, let's talk about it. No? Ano muna yung entry? That would be debit, no? Biological assets, 475,600. And then, we um, credit gain on fair value less cost to sell due to physical change naman 475,600. So now let me explain saan nanggaling yung physical change na different age, same date. Actually, ang point of reference na lang po natin talaga dito sa physical change na to is the December 31 value. Okay? Yan yung same date natin kasi yan po yung reporting period natin at the end of December 31, 2020. Now, 'di ba meron tayong mga newborn? Okay? Unahin natin yung newborn. Meron tayong apat na newborn, 'di ba? So, from June 30 nung pinanganak sila up to December 31, if you count that, that's already 0.5 year. Okay? So from 17,000, different age niya from newborn, naging 0.5 year na siya. Tignan mo yung pagbabago sa amount, no? From 17,000 naging 18,400. So yun po yung kino-consider natin as a physical change. So dito makikita mo may 0.5 year animal, so apat po yun yung newborn, no? From the original 17,000 valuation niya, okay, for newborn, naging 18,400. So the difference is around 1,400. Then multiplied it with 4, that would be 5,600. Okay? And then, 'di ba meron tayong 20 na 2-year-old animal. Okay? So meron tayong 20 na 2-year-old animal kanina, which has on December 31, ang value niya is 33,000. And then, syempre, from January to December, 1-year-old yon. Sorry, 1 year yung nadagdag. So it became now 54,000. Okay? Kaya doon sa unang 3-year-old part dito sa computation natin, okay, yung 54,000 na value ng 3-year-old less the value of the 2-year-old, then multiplied it by the 20, no, there is a physical change, no, na amounting to 420,000. Okay? And then lastly, para doon sa limang cattle natin na 2.5-year-old na binili natin ng June 30, so 44,000 siya, di ba? Tapos pagdating ng December 31, from June 30 na 2.5 siya up to December 31, so nadagdagan siya ng 0.5, kaya still 3-year-old na rin po siya. So yung 54,000 na yon less yung original fair value niya, supposed to be kung 2.5-year-old pa rin siya is 44 times 5, then it has a physical change na 50,000. So adding this all, no, at the end of the reporting period, we have a total fair value less cost to sell na change natin in physical change na 475,600. Okay? So again, hindi po kasama dyan yung newborn kasi na-entryhan na po natin kanina. Okay? So again, if it is physical change, no, different age, okay, tumatanda po siya. Okay? Similar date, no? Yun yung comparison po natin for the value. Okay? So are we clear on that? All right. So again, if you have questions, please let me know po. Okay. So the next in the series of our entry, ang hindi pa natin nare-record is yung binenta. Kasi sabi po, 10 cattle daw were sold at December 31, 2020, kay age 3-year-old, no? At fair value. So nung binenta po yon, ang entry po natin is debit cash and credit biological assets, 540,000. Sir, saan nanggaling yon? Ang value kasi ng ating cattle, which is 3 years old, no, on December 31 is 54. Eh sabi po, it was sold at fair value, so that would be 54,000 times 10. Kaya po it is amounting to 540,000. Okay? So yan po yung entry natin para dun sa nabenta. Now, we are done already with the journal entries, no? And let's try to identify magkano ba natin ipe-present ito in our statement of financial position. Okay? So, considering, no, in the statement of financial position, we still have 19. 19 na lang ba? Sir, bakit 19? Kasi 'di ba originally 20 'yon, nadagdagan ng 5 binili sa 25, may 4. Okay, so 29 tapos nagbenta ng 10. So 19 na lang, no, na magkakaiba yung age. So if we're going to look into it, no, yung ating animals includes now apat na calf, no, na may 0.5-year-old na animal. Actually ito po yung shortcut, no. Pero technically, pwede rin natin ipakita mamaya yung other computations for determining magkano yung balance ng biological asset in our statement of financial position. Mamaya po, ito muna, no, the shortcut approach. So yung apat na calf na ipinanganak noong June 30 as of December 31, 0.5-year-old na po sila at nagkakahalaga na yung 0.5-year-old ng 18.4 or 18,400, di ba? So 18,400 times 4 na calf na 0.5-year-old. Okay, then the value of that for calf, no, is 73,600. Now, yung ating 20 na animal, okay, na nagsimula nung January 1, actually it has already 3-year-old na po yung age niya in December 31, di ba? And also yung 5 cattle po natin is 2.5-year-old nung binili natin. So as of December 31, 3-year-old po. So kung mapapansin nyo dito, isang cluster na lang siya. 3-year-old na lang siya at 15 na lang. So saan nanggaling yung 15? Again, may 20 nung una, yung 2-year-old na yon na 3 taon na on December 31. Tapos may 5 po tayong binili, di ba? Na as of December 31, also 3-year-old na rin. Tapos mula dun sa 3-year-old na yon, dun po kumuha nung 10 binentang cattle, di ba? So minus 10, kaya that's equal to 15. Okay? So doon po nanggaling yung 15. Tapos ang value po ng 3-year-old ay 54,000. Kaya 15,000 times 54,000, that would be equal to 810,000. So the total biological assets po natin in our statement of financial position would be 883,600. Okay? So are we clear on this? All right. Sir, is it current or non-current? Actually, depende sa disposal, no? Kasi kung within 1 year ang disposal, then that would be current. If more than, then non-current. Okay. So since dito wala namang identifier, then we could treat it as non-current, no? Okay. So next, no, let's try to put a reconciliation, no. Sir, ano bang reconciliation? Hindi. Let's try to show, no, based dun sa entries kanina, okay, kung tutugma pa rin siya dito sa shortcut approach in determining the biological assets. Okay, so ito po yun, no. So kanina, in our starting point sa January 1, 2020, kinompute natin that the balance was 600,000, di ba? Yun yung computation kanina pinakita ko na 30,000 times the 20 cattle, no, on January 1, kaya 600,000. Then on June 30, nung bumili po tayo, nag-debit tayo ng biological assets ng 200,000, di ba? Then in our year-end adjustment, meron tayong price change na 84,000. And meron tayong physical change, okay, which is comprised of course, yung ating 64,000. This is referring doon sa kanina. Kung gusto nyong balikan, yan po yung amount doon sa entry ng newborn. No? Yun po yung newborn natin because of physical change. And then, yung entry ng year-end, December 31, okay, di ba may physical change po tayo na 475,600. So pag tinanong kita, magkano yung total physical change, that would be 539,600. Okay? And then dito po sa date of sale natin on December 31, we have credited biological assets na 540. So deduction po siya. Kaya ang balance po is 883,600. Okay? So you have option, no, whether you determine the value at the end of the reporting period based dun sa age na po ng animal at ilan po yung natitira sila and their corresponding prices, or you can simply generate the journal entries, then reconcile it, no, add and minus depending upon ano nangyari dun sa account title na biological asset to arrive at our balance. Okay? So, are we clear on this, guys? For example number 1, any questions or clarifications? Please let me know lang po on our chat box. All right? So, let's proceed with the second example po natin. Okay. So, in the second example, we are asked to determine magkano po yung amount to be reported as biological assets and what amount should be included in the property, plant, and equipment. So, kaya siya naging property, plant, and equipment, most likely it was a bearer plant or some other items that are classified as PPE. No? So, identify natin. First would be freestanding trees. Okay, so freestanding trees, and technically freestanding trees are biological assets because it is not intended naman for bearing plants or bearing uh, agricultural produce, di ba? So biological assets 'yan. Okay? Then land under trees. Okay, so yung land, nagre-refer siya sa land. The land is referring to a property, plant, and equipment, of course, no? Next would be yung road in the forest, no? May road in the forest. Okay, so that would be property, plant, and equipment. By the way, ano ba to? These are following assets in the forest, plantation, and farm daw. Okay, kaya nakikita nyo these are um, plants and also property, plant, and equipment. Next would be animals related to recreational activities. So remember that in our definition for animals, no, or biological assets, they are living plants and animals, no, which are intended to produce. But since ito po ay animals that are related to recreational activities, let's say for example, mga animals sa zoo, no, sa zoo na for kumbaga viewing, no, at kumbaga in zoos zoos tuloy, in zoo, no, hindi naman po sila intended to produce. Okay, so animals related to recreational activities, tandaan niyo po to, is to be considered as property, plant, and equipment. Totoo ba yung ah, elepante, yung tigre dun sa Manila Zoo, they are PPE. Yes, they are property, plant, and equipment kasi no, they are under no kumbaga the concept na they are used in the production of services in the zoo na for viewing, no, for recreational activities. Okay, so property, plant, and equipment yan. Next, bearer plants. So wala tayong pag-uusapan that bearer plants would be property, plant, and equipment. Better animals, nabanggit ko na to kanina. This is a biological assets. Then we have agricultural produce growing in better plants. Okay, remember, agricultural produce attached in the better plants are considered pa rin as biological assets until it was being harvested na. So itong kasunod, agricultural produce being harvested. So hindi na po yan kasama kasi this will be considered as an inventory na kasi harvested na po siya, di ba? Then plants with dual use, okay? So dual usage daw po siya. So it's either used under biological assets or property, plant, and equipment. But since we cannot identify it or segregate it, then we will go it with biological assets. Okay? So considering these items, no, our biological assets would be 12,600,000. So that includes yung freestanding trees, the bearer animals, the attached na agricultural produce sa bearer plants pa, and the plants with dual use. Okay? While the property, plant, and equipment, okay, we have the land under the trees, the road forest, the animals for recreation activities, and the better plants, which amounts to 5,450,000. Okay? So are we clear on this, guys? Any questions or clarifications? Please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay? Then next po, no, we have example number 3. Okay. So in the example number 3, we are asked, what is the carrying amount of the biological assets on December 31, 2019? And what amount from change in fair value recognized for agricultural produce for the year ended December 31, 2020? Okay. So 2019 yung unang hahanapin natin and then 2020. No? So let's read po. On January 1, 2014, okay, Cheeseburger Company planted trees on its land. Oh, nagtanim daw siya. Then the entity purchased the land 2 years ago at a cost of 4 million. Oops, yung land na yan, of course, that would be considered as a property, plant, and equipment. So hindi naman tinatanong yung PPE sa atin, kaya ignore lang natin. Then trees are considered better plants, okay, and had accumulated cost of 2 million peso on December 31, 2018. So bearer plant po yon. So anong ibig sabihin? This bearer plant is also considered as a property, plant, and equipment. So wala ulit tayong any biological assets in our first paragraph. Okay, so on January 1, 2019, ito na, no? The trees had matured and were expected to bear produce for the period of 5 years. Now, on December 31, 2019, trees produce fruit and the fair value less cost to sell of less cost of disposal or cost to sell then, no, on such date is 200,000. There was no harvesting during 2019. So ibig sabihin po, in 2019, namunga yung bearer plant na yon, which has a value of 200,000. So dahil wala pong harvest na naganap, naka-attach pa rin po yung mga produced fruits na yon. Remember kanina, produced fruits, no, attached to the bearer plant are considered as biological assets. So the answer to the first question, kung magkano po yung biological assets that will be recorded on December 31, okay, that would be 200,000. Okay, so the fair value less cost of disposal nung ating mga fruits attached on the bearer plant. Okay, are we clear on that? All right, very good. Then continuing po, no, on December 31, 2020, the fruits were harvested and the fair value less cost to dispose, okay, on such date is 300,000. Okay, so 2020 pa hinarvest, no? Ang sabi po dito, there is a gain. Ang question po is gain on change of fair value recognized on agricultural produce. So from 200,000 siya noong 2019, bago siya i-harvest, it has a fair value less cost to disposal na 300,000. Thus, that change, no, in fair value will be considered as gain. So the fair value less cost to sell na 300,000, then compare it to the 200,000 recording, then the gain from change is 100,000. Okay, so yun po yung sagot dun sa second question po na gain from change of fair value. Okay? So are we clear on this, guys? Any questions or clarifications? All right, very good. No? I hope na nasusundan niya po ako. Okay? So bago tayo mag-proceed with our last example, okay? So let's try first to discuss the theory behind the example number 4. Okay? So ito po muna, no? In accordance with IAS number 41, paragraph number 25, no? This refers to any biological assets physically attached to the land. Di ba sir, usually naman talaga physically attached yung mga living plant doon sa land. Okay? So let's take a look on this. Ano bang sinasabi ng paragraph 25? So there may be no separate market of biological assets that were attached doon sa land po, but active market exists from combined asset that is the biological asset, raw land, and land na as a package. So ito pong particular paragraph na to is concerned for those kumbaga various assets, no, including the raw land, yung land improvements such as mga fences, and then biological assets. Let's say for example, free trees po sila o kaya naman binili mo is forest plantation, okay? At a single package. So bumili ka po, no? Parang ano yan, parang at a basket price, no? Bumili ka ng iba't ibang mga products but you just paid one price. Okay? So dito sa scenario na to, ang binili mo biological assets, land at saka land improvements. Okay? As a package. And then ang sabi po, there is no separate market that exists for the biological asset. Kasi ano lang naman sila, 'di ba? Freestanding trees lang naman sila. Paanong gagawin natin? So ang sabi po, no, an entity may use the information regarding the combined assets to measure the fair value of the biological assets. Okay, so ayun po, no, gagamitin natin ano ba yung available kung wala pong market value yung ating biological assets. So of course, may fair value yung land mo at saka yung land improvements natin. Okay? So ang gagawin po natin, okay, as an example in paragraph 25, okay, is to determine the fair value of the land and the land improvements na i-deduct po natin mula doon sa binayaran po natin na package price. And then yung matitira would be to the biological assets. Okay? So, yan po yung basis natin ng discussion natin na susunod. Okay? So, ito po yung example number 4 na gagamitan natin ng concept ng paragraph 25. Okay. So, the question was, if there is no market available for the trees and plants, okay, which is attached, of course, to the land, how much is to be reported as biological assets in Pork Herbs Corporation's balance sheet. Okay, so let's read the data. Pork Herbs Corporation, a forest plantation, no, at a lump sum amount of 6,500,000. Okay, kulang no. Purchased forest plantation. Okay? Binili natin yon at 6,500,000. So this plantation includes land, fences, which is a land improvement na i-discuss po natin sa property, plant, and equipment, at saka po yung trees and plants. So sabi nga dun sa data sa problem, no, there is no available value for the trees and plants, but the fair value for the land and the fences are 4 million and then 2 million respectively. Okay? So 6,500,000 yung binayad natin. Ang value po nung land is 4 million and then the fence would be 2 million. So paano pong gagawin natin? So in accordance with that paragraph number 25, what we're going to do is to deduct no from the lump sum price na binili po natin, okay, which binayaran po natin na 6,500,000. Deduct mo po yung fair value ng land na given na 4 million at saka ng fence. Ngayon, yung residual po, yun po yung value na maa-assign sa biological asset which is 500,000. Okay? So are we clear on that po? Okay, so kung ano po yung tira no after deducting the fair value of the land and fence, yun po yung matitira for biological assets. Eh sir, is it possible no? Kasi sa problem, may sobra, may value na assigned to the biological assets which is actually the answer ha dito sa problem natin, no 500,000. Sir, paano po kung yung lump sum price po natin is lower, no? Than the fair value of the land and the fences. Meron pa po bang matitira sa biological assets? Okay? Kagaya ng pagmamahal, wala nang natitira. Charot. Okay? Hindi. So, what if, let's say for example, lump sum price natin is only 6 million? Or, hindi, wag 6 million. Mas mababa pa. Okay? Let's say for example, 5,500,000. Okay? 5.5 million lang. Okay? 5.5 million. Okay? So tapos 'di ba ang fair value ng land at saka ng fence, makikita mo pag inad mo 'yan, 6 million 'yan, 'di ba? So may maa-assign pa ba sa biological assets? Of course ang sagot, wala na. Wala na maa-assign doon kasi the value was being first assigned to the land and fence. Okay? So ibig sabihin ba 4 million yung land then fence is 2 million? Hindi. Okay? Kasi pag ganito yung nangyari, again, the biological asset will get zero already. Okay, zero na yan kasi mas mababa yung lump sum price kesa dun sa value ng land at saka ng fence. Eh sir, paano namin nahahatiin yon sa land and fence? Actually, pagdating natin sa property, plant, and equipment, ang gagawin dyan is to allocate it using the fair value or the relative fair value. So, bali pang mangyayari dyan is for the land, no, yung 5,500,000, multiplied mo siya dun sa 4 million over 6 million. Sir, ano po yung 4 million? Yun po yung value na naka-assign sa land. And then, yung 6 million po, yun yung totality ng fair value ng land at saka ng fence. So, yan po yung relative fair value. No? So, the value attached to the land, sige nga, computein natin, 5,500,000 times 4 million divided by 6 million. So, that is a value assigned to the land na 3,666,667. Okay? So yun po yung value na maa-assign sa land. And then for the fence, which is the land improvement po, so similar, 5.5 million, then multiplied it with 2 million over 6 million. So that would be magkano? Okay, tignan natin sa calculator. Ayan, that would be 1,833,333. Sir, okay lang po ba yon? Yes, that's how it works doon sa magiging discussion natin ng property, plant, and equipment. No? Even though it's lower than the fair value, yun po yung assigned value based on the relative fair value allocation. Okay? So are we clear on that? Any questions or clarifications? Please let me know po sa ating respective chat boxes. Okay? And then that's our last example. But in addition, no, I just want to discuss kasi sinabi kanina under the scope of IAS number 41 are government grants. Okay, so let's just try to discuss no government grants. Okay, so even though this is a separate kasi this is related to biological assets, no, kasi may government grants din po, accounting for it would be under IAS number 20. Okay, so sometimes no biological assets were being granted by the government no to some businesses. Okay, and it may be conditional or unconditional. Okay, so if there is an unconditional government grant no related to the biological assets. Okay, so sabi po, its fair value less cost to sell shall be recognized in the profit or loss when and only when the government grant becomes receivable. So may mga ganong cases po no na let's say for example halimbawa no yung government no their agricultural industry will give the business po mga pigs no halimbawa ngayon no may foot and mouth disease nitong nakaraan no nagkamatayan yung mga baboy so wala nang baboy for example no walang biik na mapapalaki let's say yung government no naka-acquire sila then binigay po yon doon sa one business ng farm no for pigs. Now if it is unconditional. So pag sinabi po nating unconditional, walang ibang kapalit, no? Gaya ng pamamahal, it should be unconditional. Hindi, joke lang. So ayun no, yung baboy no na binigay is unconditional. Walang hinihintay na kapalit, hindi sinasabing ibabalik mo sa akin yung biik pag nanganak o kaya naman you will pay me at some certain period of time. As in wala, no? Wala pong any condition na sinet si government, then what will happen is it will go directly to the profit or loss if it becomes receivable. So pag sinabi nating receivable, okay, it is already kumbaga high probability na mapasa atin yung particular na animal na yun or biological asset na yun. So in that case, now we will be recording it already as our biological assets, no? And we credit income from government grant. Naging income po siya or part na siya ng profit or loss. Again, it's because unconditional ha. So pag nakita niyo tong problem na kagaya nito, tignan niyo may condition bang attached? Okay, it could be explicit, no? Yung condition. Okay, so pag wala po kayong makita in problems, then it means unconditional siya. Sa totoong buhay naman po, may pipirmahan yan na parang deed of donation of the government. Then, ayun po, kung wala namang condition attached, unconditional, ito po yung entry natin, no? Nagiging income from government grant na po siya. And we are recording it as biological assets. Okay? On the other hand, what if there is a condition, no? So, if the government grant no of that biological assets okay, has a condition, it will still be recorded at fair value less cost to sell. Pero ang sabi po, no, the government grant in profit or loss will be recognized only if the conditions are met. So there are some conditions no na pwedeng iset ang government. Let's say for example, no, condition na dapat pag nanganak 'yon, yung biik na 'yon, then kailangan mag-turn over ka ng biik sa amin, no, which will be given again to another entity. O kaya naman yung ating condition is let's say for example pag napalaki na yan then you will give me one no para katayin or what okay then ayun po no magiging income lang siya if the conditions attached on the grant okay are being met already. So until such time na hindi pa na-fulfill yung condition unlike with the unconditional kanina it will just become first as unearned income. Okay, so we will debit biological assets and credit tayo ng unearned income from government grant muna siya. Okay? Unearned income. So liability natin until ma-meet yung condition at pag na-meet na yung condition, ayan, now we will be debiting the unearned income and credit na po natin yung income. So it will become now part of our profit or loss since na-meet na po yung condition. Okay? So I hope that that is clear ha. Again, if you have questions po, please let me know. Okay, so that's the end of our discussion about biological assets. No? Again, if you have questions po, please let me know lang po on our respective chat boxes. All right, so I hope na may natutunan kayo about the biological assets no? Recorded at fair value less cost to sell. Okay, and then distinguishing it from a bearer plant, which should be reported as property, plant, and equipment. Okay, and the agricultural produce naman na being harvested will be reported as inventories. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. So I'll just see you all on our next video lecture. Have a great day, no? Thank you very much and God bless, no? Kamsahamnida. Bye-bye. Sayonara.